Hi everyone, welcome to Ethernal Realms and welcome to the month ahead astrology reading. Make sure you check your sun, moon, and rising signs for a comprehensive view of the month. Additionally, I would recommend watching the tarot reading of the month ahead to get a different perspective. While you will know the astrology in advance through this session, I will also send you a reminder when the astrological events are near. All you have to do is subscribe, hit the bell, and you will be notified as the events occur through my community page. I occasionally post behind the scenes, meditation guidance, quizzes, and polls, which you can check out for yourself. And it goes without saying that you will be notified when new videos are out, such as other zodiac readings and pick a card tarot readings as well. If you prefer to cut down the guesswork about your month ahead, you can always connect with me via Etsy to get a personalized week-by-week month ahead tarot reading paired with the general astrology. Enough about me, let's talk about you. So let's talk about the general overview of October. There's quite a lot of aspects going on this month, so let's break it down into what's the most important and then drill down into each of these aspects. So first thing to note is that we have a Libra solar eclipse, which is a time of the new moon at 21 degrees of Libra occurring on the 14th of the month. I've already made a separate video for the eclipses. There are fateful events. There are some major changes that can happen in the Libran part of your charts, and this is a time of major release in order to rebalance or find a level of fairness, justice, and equality within that Libra area of your chart. And next we have another eclipse, but this is a lunar eclipse. It's a time of a full moon and is occurring in Taurus at 5 degrees. This is occurring on the 28th of the month. So this month is full of eclipse energies. Both the new moon and the full moon events are eclipses, so it seems like a major turnaround. There can be certain curveballs, resolutions, and again letting go of certain things in order to find a rebalancing or evaluation, re-evaluation, revisiting of certain beliefs and conditioning and so on, which can help us down the line. This also I cover in my eclipse specific reading. I will just mention how this affects in your house, but there are a lot more details going into this that I talk about in that separate video. I would recommend you check it out for that. All right, now let's talk about the seasons. We have Libra season, and then later on the sun moves into Scorpio, and that brings us to Scorpio season. And Libra season is all about that, again, harmony. It's kind of that transition point, the midpoint, and like the equinoxes happened and we are now moving into the days becoming a little bit shorter, or you're trying to cultivate more peace, harmony, and communication with relationships and so on that come with that season. And with Scorpio season, we talk about purging, releasing, detoxifying ourselves, and also transforming ourselves for the better. Now, when the sun moves into Scorpio, which is on the 23rd of the month, we also have Mars already in Scorpio, and Mars moves into Scorpio on the 12th. So it's going to be quite an interesting one. It's deeper, darker, more mysterious. It has more of that research mindset, and it does not like to rest before finding the true answer. These are the basic themes that are going on. Meanwhile, the Libra season, we will have Mercury and Mars over there till half the month at least, and that itself is going to have this oomph of the activism and detoxing in order to compromise or to sacrifice certain things that are just like that they're not beneficial to growth or harmony anymore. It is more communicative because Mercury is present as well, and it wants to strive even harder than general to strike this sense of balance. Next thing to note is that we have 7 oppositions and 7 trines. And oppositions are all about me and you. They take into account feedbacks, decisions, and balancing. And all of the elements are being involved, so everyone is going to feel this to some level or the other. Then the 7 trines that we have, they are easy to take for granted. That's kind of the trine energy because they bring about automatic blessings and resolutions of things. And this month we generally are looking at water and earth trines. There is one fire trine, but it's mostly the feminine energies that we're talking about. So there is more receptivity that is going to be blessed, or it can be emotional and physical, material topics that are going to be blessed around this time. Now, trines also bring about harmony within anything that is ongoing as a struggle. Okay, now we have some planets changing signs and direction as well. We have Mercury moving into Libra on the 5th. We have Venus moving into Virgo on the 9th. We have Pluto going from retrograde to direct motion in the sign of Capricorn on the 11th. And this is an important date because this is a time that you can experience certain turnarounds and breakthroughs and transformations. So if you've been struggling with a specific fear or an insecurity or a sense of powerlessness, this can be a time where you recognize, oh wait, this is where I hold my power, or this is how I can call back my power, money, or I can transform myself to feel more like myself. And we have Mercury, who later moves into Scorpio on the 22nd. Now let's talk about the North Node. It has been quite activated throughout this month through trines, oppositions, and conjunctions. And the North Node represents where fate is intervening. And of course, we do have the eclipses, which engages that North Node. It's an orb of that. So we can expect some fateful interventions occurring throughout the month, sprinkled here and there. Different parts of the month will activate different zodiacs. We'll get into that in the zodiac specific part, but we can definitely expect some turnarounds. There can be purposeful developments as well, and there can be a desire to work towards purpose, almost exclusively towards purpose, at least in certain pockets of this month. It's important to take risks because the North Node is in the sign of Aries. So doing something that you're generally afraid of doing, that can be quite blessed. The opportunities will come in, and it's more so about rolling with them. For example, someone might need to learn to say no. Meanwhile, certain people may need to learn to say yes, and that's going to be subjective as to what the opportunity is. It'll be based on your personal experience. But yes, there will be this factor of it's scary for me to say yes to certain things, or it's scary for me to say no to certain things. So it's important to go forward with that area because you know that it is going to bring greater balance into your life. And you can know that because the North Node promises this greater fulfillment if we can push past that initial hurdle or that initial fear. Okay, so let's get into the specifics now. Okay, Virgo, let's talk about you guys. For the month of October, I'm going to be going at the aspect sequentially, unlike what I did in September, which was more so about storylines. We had a lot of repeating patterns, but yeah, not this time. So let's just start with the first thing. On the 2nd, we have an opposition between Mercury in your zodiac with Neptune, who's retrograde in your opposite sign of Pisces. So this can be about certain miscommunications, over-promising, under-delivering, overly idealistic expectations and behavior, and just a general sense of vagueness. So try to be as explicit with your communication as possible and ask for the same from others. It can also be a certain level of indecision with regards to certain clients you're connecting with or certain promises that you're offering. Perhaps you don't have as much expertise in that area, so it's more of an experimental thing. And there can also be this tendency to be overly practical and not intuitive at all. But with oppositions, it's always like trying to find a little bit of that moderation on both sides so that nothing is going a little bit overboard. Okay. On the 3rd, we have a beneficial aspect between Mercury in your sign with Pluto in Capricorn, and Pluto is retrograde at this time. This falls in your 5th house of creativity, self-expression, inner child, children, and enjoyment as well. So love, romance, dating, also your hobbies. So with a trine, we talk about harmony, and that being an earth trine is talking about certain tangible actions that you might be taking here, or tangible, certain realizations that you have that are going to have tangible effects. So let's say you discover that I'm kind of over this hobby. Okay, I've done a lot of this, and yes, I'm an expert in this area now. I want to learn more and expand myself a little bit more so that it's exciting and so on. There might still be a little bit of confusion as to what exactly you want to be doing, but that's kind of part of the process of discovery, right? The same day we have another trine. It's a fire trine, Venus in Leo. So that's your 12th house, with the North Node in Aries, which is in your 8th house. So the 12th and the 8th houses are very unconscious, subconscious. We don't really see this very consciously, right? It happens in the background. We don't have too much of control over this either, but it is a very pivotal part of our charts because it shows how you manifest. Okay, what your powers are, where do you hold yourself back, and what can be transformed into its highest expression, where your creativity is, how can you express that more with regards to your vitality, willpower, stamina, all of these things. Are there any habits that are depleting your energy or taking away from the goals that you have for your future? Things like that are going to come in here. Now, this can fill you up with passion and creativity, which is awesome, right? And it can bring you certain opportunities as well for healing, growth, purging, and cleansing as well. Now, the 8th house also talks about shared resources and intimacy. So, if there are certain fears and apprehensions you might have with regards to, relationships and connections and so on, this can be a time where we need to deal with the uncomfortable stuff. Okay, that's what the 8th house is. But then once transformed, it also talks about your biggest strengths. On the 5th, we have Mercury moving away from your zodiac into Libra, which is your 2nd house of personal finances, priorities, values. So you're looking at, money strategies. How can you find more balance in this? Are there certain expenses which are unnecessary or can be arranged in other manners which are, more economically friendly? So you're looking at different ways of doing so. If you are someone who notes down your expenses regularly, this can be a different app you might be trying or a different strategy of noting things down so that it's a lot more explicit and clear for you moving forward. Now, with regards to your priorities as well, if you have too many things going on, this can be a time you might be looking at the pros and cons of each thing, and you're looking at what can be let go for now. Same day, we have an opposition between Mars in Libra in your 2nd house with the North Node in Aries in your 8th house. So this is more about that, intimacy, shared resources, and, you might have lots of activities going on with regards to your finances and self-worth, but you're also looking at where is there like a leaky pocket? For example, certain subscriptions that just take your money and you're not even using it, you're not getting value out of it, right? This can be a time where you're like, nope, that's not happening anymore. You're making like a solid decision with that topic. There can also be certain uncomfortable conversations you might be having with a partner with regards to their spending and how you collectively are managing your finances. And it can also be about how you connect with others intimately, physically, emotionally, mentally, how you converse and understand one another. On the 9th, we have Venus moving from Leo, where she has been forever, what feels like, right? And finally, it is moving into Virgo, your sign. So you're likely to come across very charming, approachable, very friendly, sociable as well. You are more noticeable too. So if you have something to showcase, present, and all of that, 9th onwards is a nice time for you. Also, it shows that there is an up level in terms of your lifestyle or your health as well, depending on what you're looking for. You might be working out more, or you have been and you are noticing the results 9th onwards. You're more organized, and at the same time you can make organization seem fun and approachable to others. You might have some very helpful tips that others are gathering from you, and you find that your personal value is increasing through all of these things. Let's see. We also have the same day Mars in Libra squaring with Pluto in Capricorn, and Pluto is retrograde at this time. Mars is in that 2nd house of yours, and Pluto is in your 5th house. So this can be about Like you might want to spend on certain things like going for a nice dinner, let's say, or purchasing something that makes you feel good, or it's a nice investment for your future, in terms of your self-expression. Let's say you're buying a sewing kit. Let's say, it's such a random example. Or like um, art supplies. You're purchasing these things and you're like, yes, I'm definitely going to work on these things. But you might want to purchase something that is high quality instead of, just something to while away your time. But you might be feeling a little bit like, is it the time yet? Should I spend on this? Maybe I need to think on it a little bit more, but I don't want to think on it a little bit more. I just want to go ahead and do what I enjoy doing, what makes me feel empowered and as though, I'm headed in the right direction and things like that. Okay, so there's a little bit of this push and pull at this time, but squares ask for creative problem solving. Yeah, like, well, figure out what can be done with the resources that you have at this time and figure out the future, the far future a little bit later. And again, it can be talking about, needing to let go of certain other expenses that are not necessary for you anymore or don't provide value in your life. And by doing so, you free up certain resources so that you can fuel it into your long-term goals. On the 10th, we have another opposition between Venus and Saturn. Venus is in your sign, Saturn is in your opposite sign of Pisces and is retrograde. So this can be a time where you're looking at your relationship a little bit seriously and you're like, okay, what do I really want from a partner? What am I going to offer to a partner? You might have this up level in your self-worth and all of that. So if you're stuck in a relationship that is just no give and take and it's just you offering yourself and they're just like, yeah, whatever, you're there, right? If there's any type of wishy-washiness or taking for granted and things like that, you might be the person here who's like, nope, not flying anymore. You have to make more of an effort, or I'm just going to have to not pursue this anymore. So it's a little bit of this tough love type of situation, and this tough love, it can come across as tough to others, but it is fierce love for yourself, right? Same goes with, any presentations you might have. If it is like an authority figure that is continuously demanding a lot from you and they're not very clear about what they're expecting and they're just like, well, appease me, figure it out and make it best for me or things like that. And you are at this time like, look, I did my best. This is what I'm going to offer with the time that I have. And based on the expectations you have and so on, more is just not possible for me. So putting your foot down over here, but doing so in a very nice way, I think that's the best way to put this. Once again, with oppositions, there's always that risk of going to one side, one extreme, and then discarding the other. Don't forget that everyone is connected and that we all have a part to play in each other's lives for some other reason that may not be known to us right away. So saying that, yes, I'm going to be fully practical and anyone who's intuitive is, not my cup of tea, or that way of, doing stuff is not my cup of tea. Sure, for you personally, maybe not, but it doesn't mean that that technique does not work on certain others. So take, certain arguments you might have or difference in opinion with a grain of salt. It doesn't have to be a reflection on a personality necessarily. Okay. Next day, we have Pluto going direct in that sign of Capricorn. And I love the times that Pluto goes direct because we all have this epiphanies and we realize where we have been holding ourselves victim. And it's time to create that transformation by knowing what we need to change. And in that sign of Capricorn, in that fifth house of yours, there can be certain realizations you have with regards to a creative venture, your children, your inner child. When you were a kid, what did you want to do, or what were your ambitions at that time? And how can you get a little bit closer to that? Even if you don't make it as your life's work, it still can be an important part of your life so that you feel fulfilled and happy, right? So there can be certain realizations you have with this regard. Any fears and insecurities you have been dealing with as a child or in the past 20 years, you might be seeing that in a different light. On the 12th, we have Mars moving into Scorpio, into your third house. And Mars rules Scorpio, so it's likely going to be intense. Now, third house is about colleagues, relatives, short distance travels, communication, mindset as well. So there can be, your manifestation powers are increasing. Your intentions and your thoughts and your words are holding like higher value. You might have more allure as well. So if you're presenting something, you're likely to make a mark on people. And the downside of this becomes that, if you're having to give certain criticism, it can come across as harsh, even if that's not what you're trying to do. Okay, so on the plus side, it's very deliberate words which make an impact and make a change happen. And on the other side, it becomes really harsh and hurts other people's feelings. You might not even know that is going to hurt someone. You're like, wait, I had no idea. I was literally just talking about the work here or the project, but I'm sorry. And it just creates a lot more drama than needed, right? So just be mindful of the words that you're saying, because you hold a lot of power around this time. And also, Mars in Scorpio talks about purging and cleansing yourself. So if there is some negative self-talk as well, you are making sure that you're loving yourself enough and caring yourself enough to get that out of your life. Scorpio does not do anything halfway, okay? It does not do any butchering work. And Mars is very action oriented, so it is going to make something happen, especially if you're doing some type of research and deep dive into a new subject, learning something new and so on. You can expect that you're going to do a great job. All right. Now, the next day on the 13th, we have a trine between Mars and Scorpio with Saturn in Pisces in your 7th house. These are social houses, so you're likely going to have some, activities going on here. Perhaps you're meeting someone through your local network, and you're hitting it off. You're having a meaningful conversation. It can even take on a deep turn, and you're pleasantly surprised even that, the other person you're discussing things with is sincere. It can even be an existing partner. It doesn't have to be a new one. Existing partner, and you're having just this important conversation, and you're like, okay, so they understand. That's cool. It can also mean that the way you are presenting yourself again comes across sincere, responsible, but not overly rigid. On the 14th, we have a new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Libra. That's in your 2nd house of personal finances, priorities, and values. I talk a lot about the eclipses in the eclipse dedicated video. I also get into zodiac specific interpretations of that, so I would recommend you check that out. But just in short, this is going to be about letting go of certain priorities, having clarity of what to let go. There can be certain intuitive nudges as well, fateful occurrences that are going to play out over the coming 4 to 6 months of this eclipse, and it just closes out a certain chapter. It can even be that you set up a new stream of income, but it is let's say through a shared asset, such as what do you call that? Crowdfunding. Yeah, I was kind of forgetting that word, but crowdfunding, making your case, showcasing what you can do, your talents and all of that, and just kind of relying on others to understand where you're coming from. Your job is to do your part, right? So you're kind of focusing on that. There can also be certain codependent habits and associations that you're letting go as a result of this eclipse. Now, the 18th, 19th, 20th, and the 21st, they are doing a little bit of the short story themselves, so I'm just going to go at them in one go. So on the 18th, we have the Sun in Libra in your 2nd house having a meeting, let's say, with the North Node in that 8th house. Now, the North Node is the point where we find our purpose and fate intervenes. So the universe is kind of talking through that point. So the Sun, by being in this opposite side, it's sort of like during an interview or a meeting, you're kind of sitting across from each other, right? So you have eye contact, you can talk to each other, you can kind of see where the other person is coming from. So similar to that, the Sun is like, okay, what's my next focus? How can I do the best job that I do? What clarity do I need to bring to Virgos at this time? And North Node in Aries is like, okay, well, we're going to create certain type of opportunities or scope for expansion here. Even if it's a little bit uncomfortable, Virgo will know that this is going to be quite exciting for them, or it just expands their worldview. It makes them connect with different people they would not have otherwise, and helps them transform certain fears and insecurities that they may have held onto. So the Sun is like, okay, cool, we're gonna do that. Next day, we have Mercury meeting with the North Node. And Mercury is all about that mindset, okay? How can I arrange my logic and communication so that we are able to achieve this goal? The sun is like what needs to happen. It's the clarity. Without awareness and clarity, what are we going to do, right? And meanwhile, with Mercury, we need to know how we're going to do something in order to get to that point. So that's what we're discussing on the 19th. And on the 20th, both of these planets, the sun and Mercury, come together and they have a meeting of their own. And they're like, okay, so this is what we discussed with the North Node, and we're going to combine forces. We know how to do something, we know what to do, and we're just going to have to execute that. Now, the execution can happen on the 21st. This is where both of these planets are squaring with Pluto in Capricorn. Now remember, Pluto is direct now, right? So we are more empowered at this time. We are less likely to be defeated and more likely to be like, yep, it is in my hands. I will manifest what I want to do and what I want to be and all of these things, right? So with this square, it can be slightly frustrating in the sense that I keep on doing this and I keep on experiencing this. I just can't have it anymore. Okay, I cannot have this experience anymore. I'm going to change something based on the newfound clarity that I have, put that into action and make the change happen. Okay, really strong stuff. On the 22nd, we have Mercury moving into Scorpio. So the mindset now shifts from, the financial part of things and arranging those types of topics into the third house of communication and also mindset, but it's in a different way of how you just perceive the world, how you think about things, and so on. And also we're looking at your, colleagues, your teams, projects as well, sales, advertising, the connections you're making with your siblings and relatives as well. So you're likely going to have some deep conversations, or again, some intense encounters as well. You might learn something intense from other people, so it's your colleagues that might be going through a little bit of an intense time, and you can offer your guidance if they're asking for it, but you're just in this observational state, and it's as though you can learn a lot through just observing others. Apart from that, you again have this deep mindset. This is totally like detective mode, research oriented. It wants to do that deep dive. Anything you need to learn and investigate, this is a perfect opportunity for you. Same day, we have a trine of Mercury, which has recently moved into Scorpio, with Saturn in Pisces, which is in that 7th house. Once again, these are the social houses, so you might have this conversation again, serious conversation. It can be of, okay, how are we going to do something? We discussed that you want to make more of an effort. I want to know how, things of that nature. Or if you're adding some type of service, you're like, okay, I know what to make, and I'm really pumped up about this idea, but I also need to implement how I'm going to conduct myself. What should the title be? What should the description be? Is it SEO friendly? Stuff like that. The same day, we have another trine between Venus in your sign with Jupiter, who's retrograde in Taurus, in your 9th house. Now, this can be about looking at your education so far, or your mentors so far, and seeing how that has, brought you up in your experience. Yes, it can also be talking about your previous experiences. What have you learned? Where is your expertise? And how can you improve the quality of these things? And what does that mean for you? You might feel like you are upgrading in life, or you're looking for an upgrade here, and you're first looking at, okay, before I go ahead and expand really far and wide, I need to first examine that I'm in the right place. Okay, now the 9th house is quite divine. It can be connected to spirituality, religion, your belief system as well. You're examining certain social conditionings, what your thoughts are about, abundance or prosperity, finances, things like that. And wherever things are not working well for you, you're resolving it in this particular aspect. Venus and Jupiter, both of them are benefics, so they bring about protection, resolution, and good luck, and all of that. So all in all, it's looking pretty nice. Okay, let's talk about the 23rd. We have the sun moving into Scorpio. And it is Scorpio season now. The 3rd house is again being illuminated here. The focus moves there. We have the strategy in place on the 22nd, and on the 23rd, we're like, okay, I'm going to focus on this full on. Let's go make this happen. And again, you're coming across very charming, very magnetic. And this is an awesome time for you to manifest, honestly. Let's say 9th onwards, and even more so 12th onwards. You can do some good manifestation. You don't have to wait for the new moon or the full moon. They are eclipses anyway, so it's generally discouraged to manifest something at that time unless you want it to be fulfilled like a decade later or something, because that's the cycle. But in general, you can definitely make some strong impact in your environment. Now, this also talks about a big focus on transformation. You're observing the exterior, but you're also thinking about it deeply internally. So even if you're reading something and, you're reading previous research papers from past, experts and things like that, you're also thinking very deeply as to what that means for you. You can also have some deep conversations, or there's the sense of temptation as well. Like if you're someone who's creating content, you can make something seem very sensational, or it can seem quite intriguing. They want to know what the offer is, or if you have anything to drum roll, this would be a very nice time for you. On the 24th, we have another trine between the sun in Scorpio with Saturn in Pisces, and again, this is the social houses here. So you're having some nice conversations with your partner or your clients or your authority figures that you're in one-to-one connection with, and it can even be your business partner if you have one. And this is just in general, whatever you're realizing, you're implementing, and you're getting good feedback. On the 28th, we have a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus. This falls in your 9th house again. And like I mentioned, I talk at depth with the eclipses, about the eclipses in that other video, which is eclipse dedicated. But just in short, this is lighting up that 9th house, right? So it talks about certain changes you have been experiencing for the past 1.5 months, 1.5 years, that are going to come to conclusion around this time, because this is the last time that we're going to have an eclipse in Taurus for quite a long time, especially with the North Node in Taurus. Okay, so this is sort of a grand finale of, okay, I know what to do. This is how it is. It is set now. It is completed, and now it's time to move on to that next phase of that Aries North Node and Libra South Node. Same day, we have an opposition between Mars and Jupiter. Same houses are being targeted. So Mars is in your 3rd house and Jupiter is in your 9th house. So this can be about certain communications that's going on with regards to your foreign contacts and your local community as well. There might be this need of bridging the gap in communication, or like etiquette, things like that can be, and you are quite perceptive at this time. So you can almost like sense what the other person is needing to hear at this time. Meanwhile, people around you may not be as keen, but you can kind of convey it to others if you have the chance at this time. And if this is more of a solo communication, then I mean, you are on the same page. Be watchful that there can be a little bit of this overdoing tendency at this time. Okay, so you're like very excited, very eager, and all of these are awesome stuff, and they should be channeled as a fuel, but you're also like, can we do this right now? Can we like make it happen right away? That's sort of quality there. There was another thing I was trying to mention. Yes, it was about travel. Yes, travel plans. So you might have many travel plans. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, I have to go abroad to this country and that and that and that. And there might be many bookings you might have to make. Perhaps, like, let's say you're going on a tour into Europe and you want to not just visit one country, you want to visit many. And that means you have to care for your, residences in each of these places. How many days are you going to stay? And so on and so forth. And yes, you're really good at planning, but maybe it can be a little bit overdone. So don't finalize anything yet. Maybe around the 31st you can more so finalize. Just wait like a couple days. Hopefully that is possible, right? On the 29th, we have another opposition, same houses, Mercury in Scorpio with Jupiter in Taurus, again, 3rd and the 9th house. So this might be more plans and discussions going on with regards to travel, communication, certain projects coming up. There is a tendency of over-promising in this one. Okay, like, yeah, sure, it can be done in like a month. But, when you think about it a little bit, like maybe it would be a little bit tight and uncomfortable, but since I've already promised, I'm just going to have to do it. Okay, so something like that. Just watch out for that. It can also be conversations with certain, mentors you might have. So let's say your school teacher, who you had a nice relationship with, and you're reconnecting with them. In that way, it kind of takes on a different tone. It's more beneficial and works in your favor. Same day, we have Mercury and Mars conjoining in the sign of Scorpio. This is intense. Again, can be a little bit harsh speech if in the shadow side, but on the plus side, it is very sharp thinking, and it's highly perceptive, very creative, empathetic. You can almost feel the feelings of other people around you. So surround yourself with, nice guys and just good vibes and all of that, so that, you're not draining yourself. Scorpio is very empathetic, but it does get quite drained, especially when there are so many personal planets going on there. So yeah, self-care, very important. Think about your own feelings, love yourself more, and things like that. Anywhere there are certain fears or insecurities and all of that, this is a perfect time to kind of work through those things. On the 31st, we have a trine between Venus in your sign with Uranus in Taurus in your 9th house. Uranus is retrograde at this time. So no shocking surprises at this time, because those things have already happened when Uranus was direct. And Venus was in Leo at that time. So there was a lot of the squaring of, I can't help the changes that are happening and I don't know how to make it better for myself, or I don't know how to cope with this. It's so confusing. Things like that could have been a theme. But now with Venus in Virgo and in that favorable aspect with Uranus, it's more so like, yeah, I know what to do. I know how to manage myself. I know how to care for myself and take advantage of the changes that have occurred. You're feeling more independent as well. You're trying to see, okay, how can I express myself more uniquely? Maybe switching up your dressing style or your presentation style. Depending on what your priorities are, and therefore changing the impression that you're making at a global level, if that is something that resonates with you. It can even be switching up your research style or teaching style, depending on, what your area of expertise is. So that's what I have for you. Thank you for being here. I really hope you enjoyed and that the messages help you out throughout the month. Stay tuned for the tarot reading. I will be uploading them soon. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified whenever that's up. And if you enjoyed the reading, please do like and comment your thoughts if you have any. It will be really lovely to hear back from you, and it really helps the channel grow as well. I will see you some other time. Until then, take care. Bye.